Something strange happens when you truly start to wake up. Not the kind of waking up where you stretch, grab your phone and sip coffee. I'm talking about the moment your eyes open to reality itself. When the illusion begins to fade. And for the first time, you see. It's beautiful. But it also changes everything. Because once you've seen even a glimpse of what's really going on here, there are certain things you simply cannot share. Not because they're hidden secrets, but because they're too deep to fit inside words. You can describe the taste of honey, but until someone tastes it, they'll never know. So today, let's talk about 5 things you should never share once you are spiritually awake. Not because of pride, but because truth can't be taught like a recipe. It must be experienced. When awakening touches you for the first time, it's not a gentle knock on the door. It's an earthquake that quietly rearranges everything you thought was real. The first impulse most people feel in that moment is the desire to share it. You want to tell the world. You want to explain this extraordinary shift that has turned your entire perception inside out. It feels like finally finding something that was hiding in plain sight your entire life. You see beauty in the ordinary, light in every corner, life breathing through everything. You want to grab your friends, your family, anyone who will listen and say, "Don't you see? It's right here. It's always been here." But that excitement quickly meets confusion. People smile politely. They nod, maybe even say, "That's great for you." But you can see it in their eyes. They don't get it. To them, you sound like someone who's had a strange dream, or worse, someone who's lost touch with reality. And in a sense, they're right. Because the world you're describing isn't the one they live in yet. You see, awakening isn't a concept you can transfer. It's not a theory, an opinion, or a belief system. It's not something that can be wrapped in words and handed to another person, like a book or a gift. It's a lived experience, a direct seeing. Trying to describe it is like trying to explain color to someone who has been blind since birth. You can speak about shades, feelings, warmth, or emotion, but unless they see it themselves, it's only imagination. Think of the difference between reading about swimming and being in the water. You can memorize every technique, how to float, how to move your arms, how to breathe. But until you actually step into the water, you don't truly know it. The water feels different on your skin than in your mind. Awakening is that kind of knowing, a full body, full being recognition that cannot be captured by language. And yet, in your eagerness to share, words spill out. You try to explain, but they twist and fall short. Soon, what you say begins to sound like superiority. You speak of seeing truth, and others hear judgment. You talk about being awake, and they feel accused of sleeping. Without meaning to, you create a distance between yourself and them, the very separation that awakening revealed to be an illusion. That's the subtle trap of the early awakened mind, believing the insight itself needs to be spoken. But real wisdom doesn't shout. It doesn't try to convince or convert. It lives quietly, shining through your actions, your presence, your patience, your peace. Those who are truly awake often speak less, not more. Not because they want to hide what they know, but because they understand how easily truth becomes distorted once it passes through the filters of language and ego. They realize that silence, calmness, and compassion communicate far more than any explanation ever could. Their presence itself becomes a kind of teaching. People may not understand what has changed, but they feel something. A steadiness, a warmth, an ease that words can't describe. And in that silent transmission, the seed of awakening is planted in others, naturally, without effort. So when you wake up, Resist the urge to shout from the rooftops. Let the truth settle inside you first. Let it shape the way you see, the way you listen, the way you love. Because the moment you stop trying to explain the ocean, and instead become the ocean, people will feel it without a single word spoken. That's the real sharing. The kind that happens without sound, through the quiet radiance of being. Every seeker begins with a method. Meditation, prayer, fasting, breathwork, journaling, silence, chanting. The list is endless. You pick a path that feels right, and for a time, it becomes your anchor. You pour your energy, your hope, your discipline into it, believing that if you follow it faithfully enough, it will take you to awakening. And sometimes, it does. A certain practice can open a door so wide that your entire sense of self dissolves in its light. You may remember the first time it happened, maybe during meditation, or a walk in the forest, or through the heartbreak that shattered your defenses. In that crack, something beyond your control broke open, and you glimpsed reality as it truly is. Naturally, when that happens, the heart overflows with gratitude. You want to share the method with others, to show them the path that worked for you. You might think, if it opened me, it can open them too. But here's the quiet paradox. What worked for you worked because of you. Your temperament, your stage of life, your inner struggle, your exact moment in time. The method itself wasn't magical. Your readiness was. Two people can sit side by side in meditation for years and walk away with completely different experiences. One dissolves into stillness. The other wrestles endlessly with thought. Why? Because awakening isn't produced by the technique. It's revealed when the technique no longer stands between you and what already is. Think of it like medicine. The same pill that heals one person can harm another, depending on their condition. Your practice, your method, your spiritual medicine was perfect for your particular illness, but for someone else, it might be the wrong dose or the wrong cure altogether. There's a story about a student who meditated diligently for 5 years under his teacher's guidance. One day, in frustration, he said, "Master, I've done everything you asked. I've sat for hours, followed every instruction, but I still haven't awakened." The teacher smiled and replied, "Then stop meditating." The student was shocked. "Stop? But you told me to meditate." The teacher said, "Yes. And now I'm telling you to stop. You've turned meditation into another chain. That's the trap. Turning the very practice meant to free you into something you cling to. You start believing the technique itself will produce enlightenment, that if you repeat it long enough, follow it perfectly, you'll finally arrive. But that's the illusion awakening destroys. The idea that there's somewhere to get to or something to achieve. The truth is simple, but rarely comforting. Awakening doesn't happen because of what you do. It happens when all doing drops away, when the effort to become dissolves, and you finally notice what's been here the whole time. That doesn't mean practices are useless. They're tools, ways of clearing the fog so you can see the mountain that's already beneath your feet. But once you see, you no longer need the tool. You can set it down gently and walk freely. Sharing your practice, then, can be both helpful and harmful. Helpful, if offered as a possibility, not a formula. Harmful, if spoken as a guarantee, because people may mistake the method for the destination and chase endlessly what was never lost. So instead of saying, "This is the way," perhaps say, "This was my way. Yours might look different." Encourage them to listen to their own inner rhythm, to their unique doorway into stillness. In the end, the true teacher doesn't hand you a map. They remind you that the map is already drawn inside you, waiting to be read in silence. When you understand this, your teaching becomes effortless. You no longer try to show others the path. You simply live from the space that your own path revealed. And in your presence, others begin to sense their own. Because the real practice is not meditation, breath work, or ritual. The real practice is seeing. And once you see, there is nothing left to do, only to be. The moment awakening touches you, your perception of people changes forever. You no longer see them as you once did. Their words, their reactions, their pain. You begin to sense what lies beneath. You see how much of their life is built around fear. Fear of being rejected, fear of being unseen, fear of not being enough. You notice the masks they wear. Confidence disguising insecurity, kindness hiding loneliness, ambition covering emptiness. It becomes so clear that you almost want to shout, "Can't you see? You don't have to live like this." But here's the paradox. The clearer you see, the less others can understand what you're trying to say. Your words, which feel like truth to you, sound like judgment or confusion to them. You're speaking from a mountain they haven't climbed yet. They can't see the view, because they're still walking through the fog. And so, what often begins as compassion, wanting to help, wanting to wake others up, easily turns into frustration. You might feel lonely, misunderstood, or even rejected by those you care about most. It's painful to watch people suffer from illusions you've already seen through. You want to reach into their mind, tear away the veil, and show them the freedom that's waiting. But you can't. Because awakening cannot be forced. No one can be pushed into seeing what they're not ready to see. If you try, you don't accelerate their journey. You interfere with it. Imagine a butterfly struggling inside its cocoon. Its wings are weak, its form incomplete. Out of pity, you cut the cocoon open to help it escape. But in doing so, you rob it of the very struggle that gives its wings strength. It falls to the ground, unable to fly. The same is true for human awakening. Every illusion, every heartbreak, every disappointment, these are the struggles that make the soul strong enough to see. If you take that away too early, the person never develops the inner muscles required to hold truth. This is why real compassion is not about changing people. It's about understanding where they are and allowing them to be there. True compassion trusts the intelligence of life itself. It knows that every person unfolds at the perfect pace for their evolution. The person who clings to ego must first exhaust the ego. The one addicted to control must first be broken by chaos. The one obsessed with love must lose it again and again, until they realize love was never outside them. You can't rush this. You can only stand beside them with an open heart. Sometimes your silence teaches more than your words. When you simply live from awareness, when you embody what you've seen, your presence itself becomes a mirror. People feel it. Something in them recognizes that calm, that groundedness, that lack of judgment. And slowly, without you trying, they start to see through their own illusions. This is the power of quiet influence. Not preaching, not persuading, but being. You may remember how your own awakening began. Did someone convince you? Or did something inside you crack open through experience, through pain, through your own readiness? That's how it happens for everyone. So, when you look at others still trapped in illusion, don't feel superior. Feel gratitude. You were once there too, and someday, when they're ready, they'll awaken in their own way, in their own time. The greatest teachers are not those who point out your blindness. They are those who wait patiently in the light until your eyes adjust on their own. To see others clearly is a gift. To let them grow in their own time is wisdom. And to love them through it all. That's compassion in its purest form. When awakening deepens, something profound and unsettling happens. You begin to see that nothing in existence is truly solid. Everything that once seemed fixed, the world, your thoughts, your emotions, even your identity, starts to shimmer and dissolve like mist in sunlight. You realize that life is not made of things, but of movements, endless patterns of energy rising and falling, appearing and disappearing. Every sound, every sensation, every breath, all of it flows through a vast emptiness that is not empty at all, but alive with infinite possibility. And then comes the greatest shock of all. You, the one you thought you were, is part of that same movement. The self you defended, the image you built, the personality you carried for years. None of it is permanent. It's a story unfolding in awareness, a wave in the ocean believing it's separate from the sea. At first, this realization feels like freedom. The heavy weight of me begins to lift. You see that there was never anything to protect, nothing to prove, no fixed center to maintain. The anxiety that came from trying to control life starts to dissolve. You can breathe again, not as a person, but as existence itself. But try explaining this to someone still anchored in the illusion of self, and it sounds terrifying. They hear nothing is real and think it means nothing matters. To the unawakened mind, the void feels like annihilation. It sounds like losing everything, meaning, morality, love, even life itself. Yet in truth, the opposite happens. When the illusion of separateness falls away, everything begins to matter more deeply than ever. Because now, there is no you and them, no division between inside and outside. Every face becomes your own reflection. Every pain, your pain. Every joy, your joy. This is not nihilism, it's unity. You don't stop caring about the world. You begin to care about it as yourself. You don't reject morality. You live it naturally. You don't follow rules out of fear, but out of harmony. Hurting another becomes unthinkable, like striking your own body. This is why the truly awakened don't withdraw from the world. They play their roles with grace, knowing it's all part of the great cosmic dance. They still work, love, create, and serve. But without the chains of identity, they move like wind, free, yet in perfect rhythm with the whole. And yet, they rarely speak about it, because words are too small for what they've seen. To someone who hasn't yet tasted that silence, talk of emptiness sounds like madness. So the wise one remains quiet, allowing truth to express itself, not through speech, but through presence. Their silence is not avoidance, it's reverence. They know that the ultimate truth cannot be taught, it can only be realized. The quiet radiance, the final understanding. When all 4 layers of insight settle within you: 1. The humility to keep your awakening sacred. 2. The wisdom to know your path is unique. 3. The compassion to let others awaken in their time. And 4. The peace to live in the void without fear. You reach the quiet radiance. It's a stillness that doesn't need to be declared. A peace that doesn't depend on circumstances. You stop seeking the divine because you realize you've been it all along. So the final teaching is not about saying more, but about being less. Less of the story, less of the noise, less of the effort. In that simplicity, existence flows through you as light. When others meet you, they might not understand what you've realized, but they'll feel something. A calm that steadies them, a silence that speaks louder than words. That's the real transmission of awakening, not through speech, but through presence. Don't rush to explain it. Don't try to convince. Just live it. Be it. And when someone's heart is ready, they'll sense it and find their own way home, just as you did. If this message touched something deep inside you, don't just click away. Pause, breathe, and let the silence between these words speak to you, because the awakening you're seeking is already awake, as you